Hi there, I'm John Arbuckle. I'm a cartoonist, and this is my cat Garfield. Hi there, I'm Garfield. I'm a cat, and this is my cartoonist John. Our only fault is to entertain you. Feed me. Today, 40 years ago, that comic strip appeared in 41 newspapers. And nowadays, Garfield is world famous. He spawned 2 TV series, 12 TV specials, 2 live-action movies, and lots of merchandise. Yep, Garfield has reached the age that nobody really wants to reach. And today, I'm going to celebrate him by talking about how I got to meet his creator, Jim Davis. As everybody who's followed me know, I'm a huge Peanuts fan. It was one of 2 comic strips I used to read all the time as a kid. The second, of course, is Garfield. Most of my friends in school weren't that big into Peanuts as much as I was. Everybody I knew was more of a Garfield fan. But lucky for me, I was also a Garfield fan. I remember as kids, my friends and I used to read books like this, where we would read out loud our favorite comic strips and would just laugh our heads off. Man, I love how they did the 3-in-1 pack. But even today, I still enjoy reading the Garfield strip whenever I get a chance. But unfortunately, my local newspaper no longer carries it. Well, anyway, I always wanted to meet Charles Schulz and Jim Davis. They were both big heroes of mine, and unfortunately, I never got the chance to meet Charles Schulz. But my chance to meet Jim Davis came about when Garfield was celebrating its 25th year. God, I'm old. You see, Jim Davis was going to be at a books and company that happened to be in my home state. And not wanting to pass up the opportunity, me and my family went there to meet them. And when we got there, they had tables of books like this stacked up. But believe it or not, every one of those books had already been signed by Jim Davis. You see, we were told by the people running this event that this was the first time in a few years he had done an autograph session, and he already had went through all those books and pre-signed them with just his name. But if you wanted it to be personalized, you would have to wait in line. I thought it was a good deal that you could just get the book already signed and leave if you didn't want to stick around. But of course, I was going to stick around, if nothing else, to at least get a chance to talk to Jim Davis. How they did this event was they handed out green tickets to everybody, sort of like how they do for the deli, where they have these numbers on them. I no longer have my ticket, unfortunately, but basically they were going to call out numbers, like say from 1 to 10, and have you line up. That way nobody has to stay in a long line for hours and hours just to get his autograph. But believe it or not, when they had handed out 300 green tickets, they ran out of them, and they started handing out orange tickets. And I remember encountering a guy whose orange ticket was up to $2.43, I believe it was. So I estimate there was about 600 people there. Anyway, Jim Davis had come out after some time, and I remember everybody was clapping and cheering. You know, he was basically a movie star to everyone. They even had a guy dressed up in a Garfield outfit, but he didn't stay too long. I can only imagine how hot it must have gotten that costume. But first, Davis did a little speech about the creation of Garfield, how he got its name and whatnot. And then I remember he started to talk about the voice for Garfield, where he said how he went through many different actors before getting into Lorenzo Music. And it was here he added that some of you may know him as the voice of Carlton the doorman from Rhoda. And all the grown-ups in the room were like, "Oh yeah, I remember that show. I was so great. I remember he was Carlton the doorman." Whereas the little kids were all like, "What's Rhoda?" It was a big generation gap right there. He credited Lorenzo Music for help popularizing Garfield, and it amazed me how he basically honored Lorenzo Music during this event. And at the time, like, Lorenzo Music had only been dead for about 3 years, if I remember correctly. And he said since he passed on, they hadn't really done much with the Garfield voice. But this is where he announced that they were working on the first live-action movie. And I remember feeling excited about the idea of a live-action Garfield movie. And it was at this event he chose to reveal who the voice of Garfield would be. And of course, it was Bill Murray. I remember how excited everyone in the room was when he said that. I remember looking at my dad, and we were like, "Oh my God, Bill Murray. This would be awesome." At the time, it didn't occur to me that now Bill Murray and Lorenzo Music were forever connected because they both did Garfield and Peter Venkman. Even Jim Davis years later admitted he didn't realize the connection at the time he cast Bill Murray. But at the time it was, "Oh my God, Bill Murray." After he was done with the speech, he did a Q&A, and people asked the usual questions, like, "Do you own a cat named Garfield?" "No, I don't." And I don't remember every question that was asked, but just so you know, I didn't ask any questions during the Q&A because during his speech, he basically answered every question I possibly had. After the Q&A came the autograph session. Davis sat at a table with his wife, and they would have people call out the numbers like I said earlier to line up so he would personalize the books that were being sold. Or if you happen to have a Garfield t-shirt or the Monopoly game or whatever, he would have signed that as well. And if you wanted to take a picture with him, he was more than happy to oblige. I didn't have the foresight to take a picture with Jim Davis. Retrospect, I kind of wish I had a camera with me, but oh well. As I was waiting for my turn to get up in line and have Jim Davis personalize my book, that I began to talk to some people where they were all saying how they kind of felt bad for him because they were saying how he had to sign all those books and everybody would come up and get personalized autograph, and whatever they happened to bring then he would sign as well. And there were a lot of people there, and they were like, man, that has to be tiring to do. And we even began to imagine he hated doing it, because I often hear how celebrities despise signing autographs. They would do anything they can to avoid doing them, and talking to these people, I started to feel kind of bad for him myself. So, anyway, my number got called and I stood in the line for the autograph, and like, this is the book he signed, as you can see. That's my name right there. For anyone who's ever wondered, yes, my name really is Joe. And I also had a few other books he signed, but I don't have them on me at the moment. But I remember I said to him as he was signing my books that, man, your hand must be very tired. And instead of being like, yeah, I hate doing this, that my hand is completely exhausted after signing all these stupid autographs, he actually laughed and said, no, not at all. I feel fine. And I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah, this is nothing to me. I have to draw Garfield every day, so this is relaxing, and I'm actually having fun doing this. It totally blew my mind how at ease he was signing these autographs. And for everyone who went up to him, he would not only sign the autographs with a smile on his face, and it didn't look professional or anything. It actually seemed like he enjoyed it. And like myself, there would be different people coming up to him and would talk to him, and he would spend as much time as he could with each person who came up to want their autograph. I often hear people say never meet your heroes because they will never live up to your expectations. Jim Davis really met my expectation of what he would be like. If there's one thing I could say about him, he was as nice as he could be. There were so many things I wish I could have said to him besides what I did say, but it was about the only thing I could think of at the moment. And, well, meeting Jim Davis was one of the highlights of my life, and it made that summer the best one I ever had. And you see, it was after that summer I was starting out in a new vocational high school. I was a junior at the time, and I remember the first day of school, I was very pumped to tell everybody I got to meet Jim Davis. To me, it was like meeting the president or the Pope. And I think if I had said this to all my friends back in elementary school, everyone would have thought I was the coolest guy ever. Well, anyway, on the first day, my instructor had us pair off with two different people, talk to one person and then another about our summer. Like, I remember the first guy I talked to, I told him how I met Jim Davis and I got his autograph. And he was very, very impressed by that. And we talked about nothing else. He was like, oh man, that's so cool. I love Garfield. Oh, there's going to be a live action movie. I can't wait. Really? Bill Murray is going to be Garfield? Oh my God, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Right there, I felt like the coolest guy in the world. And then I had to talk to another person, and this guy, when I told him about meeting Jim Davis, his reaction was more like, oh, cool. Well, I didn't really do anything during the summer. Well, needless to say, that conversation died very quickly. And later that day, I went to my English class where my English teacher asked everybody what they did during the summer. And, of course, I raised my hand immediately. And when he picked me, I said with a lot of pride, I got to meet Jim Davis. And he just looked at me like, who? And I realized then and there he had no idea who I was talking about, so I added, he created Garfield, and all he could say was, ah. Well, I didn't impress as many people as I thought I would when I told them I met Jim Davis. But I did impress that one guy, and even if I didn't impress anybody, I got to meet somebody I admired, and that's worth more to me than anything else. And I hope you all enjoyed my story on meeting Jim Davis for the 40th anniversary celebration. If any of you have your own stories meeting Jim Davis or anyone you admired, let me know in the comment section. And I will resume my series on looking at Garfield in animation. See you later.